some video about all Ranty's rules that he's put in place. And I made quite a long comment on it.
You'd think if someone is converted from one side of the debate to the other by a specific argument that they make like a half-hour presentation about, the thing to do to convince them that maybe they're not correct is to address their argument and to not use the image for like 2 or 3 other tangential arguments. Just a thought.
It's just so obviously an act. You know, it's gatekeeping, pure and simple.
How are you supposed to address Ranty's image? He has no information on it. None.
That's not true, Chemo.
What is he supposed to address? His presupposed model.
You know everything you need to know.
Yeah, we have the location of the observer, we have the distance to Blackpool Tower, we have the distance to the Dowcrag Peak, we have the elevation of Dowcrag's Peak, and we have the elevation of the top
No, we don't. We don't know the observer height.
Tower.
We don't know how far away the tower is. We don't know the actual position of the mountains. We don't have anything. Did they use an incline?
Yes, we do, Chemo.
Really, we don't know where we don't know where Blackpool is.
No, we don't know the height of the observer.
Could be anywhere. Someone could say, I'm going to drive to Southport today. It's half an hour's drive, and then they get there 6 hours later because it could just be anywhere. We have no idea where it is.
Did they use an inclinometer? Exactly. They're not using the right tools. Ranty's using a picture with pixels and expects flat earthers to take that seriously.
They'll have used theodolites to determine the distance.
No, I'm saying Ranty's using pixels and expects us to take it seriously. Really?
Yeah, you take pixels seriously all the time, Chemo.
Yeah, so to address a couple of your points, when you say that we don't know the observer height, Ranty went ahead and did you guys a favor. He went ahead and lowered the observer height as much as he could. He set it to 0. And what this does is it makes the perspective such that Blackpool Tower should appear even higher. This makes it easier for the... Based on perspective, having the observer height be 0 makes it easier for the flat Earth to explain away this as just perspective.
I just told you about the sun appears lower when you're in a plane. Not a big deal.
What does that have to do with Ranty's image?
Because we see things in the distance appearing lower. The ground rises and the object is magnified.
And the rate at which it does that is well understood. We understand how angular sizes are affected by things being distant.
Clearly
Emerald, you might want to explain this. Well, what observer height has to do with this and how it affects it. Higher and lower.
Because if we know how high we are, then we know how much drop there should be.
No, there's a bigger point here, Chemo.
What's that then?
Well, Emerald's gonna make it or he won't.
About the observer height?
Yeah, explain how it affects it.
So, if I raise my observer height, right? So say I'm standing at the same place as the person who took this picture. If I just raise my observer height, I would expect to see the mountains start appearing taller relative to Blackpool Tower. Right? Do you agree?
The higher you go, the further you see.
That's not what I asked.
They just spew out basically stuff that they've heard somewhere else. They have no comprehension. It's just there's no understanding or trying to imagine in their head what's actually going on. It's just
ain't that calling the kettle
repeat something I've heard before. At least try to imagine what it looks like, how the perspective works. At least imagine the triangle from the observer along a line along the ground and then a viewing line to the top of the mountain and where the tower would sit, and then move that up and down, and at least try and imagine that in your head. Maybe then you'll understand.
Are you appealing to Chemo's better nature?
But it seems like they don't even want to try. They're just here to spew out like the same
he doesn't want to
catchphrases.
He's doing everything in his power to obfuscate and not understand things or act like he doesn't understand them, to try to confuse things, to keep the game going. If Chemo got it, it's game over. So you can't get it.
There's it's not that difficult to get You're saying the mountain is lower because of curvature. We need the observer height so we can figure out how much drop there should or should.
Well, the thing is, we do know that observer height because we know originally that the location given was this car park, right? So we can check the height of that car park, and doubtless it varies slightly across the car park, but it doesn't. On this type of an observation at this distance, that isn't really going to make a great deal of difference. We know the guy isn't on a tower or standing on the top of something really tall. We know he's standing on the ground with his camera. We can see some of the ground fairly close to us in front of us. So, it's just, if it's 10 meters different from what we're saying it is now, that isn't going to help you. On the Isle of Man, that made a big difference because we were looking at stuff on the horizon and some of it at least wasn't as far away. So, that's a different type of observation. On this one, it's really not going to make a lot of difference, Keema.
But even then, Jim, you see, it doesn't really matter what the observer height is here in this case because the mountain is lower than the tower in the image. The mountain is lower. That's it. What the observer height is not going to make it go lower. All the observer height could do is make it go higher.
No.
It's already below, so something else other than the observer height is making it go lower.
This is why we don't need an inclinometer, because all we care about is the qualitative observation that mountain appears lower than the tower. It doesn't even matter by how much. In fact, I don't even have to go as far as to say that curvature is causing this. The only conclusion that I know we can draw for certain is that this does not happen due to perspective on a flat Earth.
Yeah, but we know why it's
and
lower.
that ground cannot be flat.
Yeah, so the ground between the observer's point and Dow Crag cannot be flat.
We know how this works on a flat plane, though. Not that difficult to explain and demonstrate.
It doesn't work on a flat plane.
Yeah, that's exactly what Ranty's argument is showing that using perspective on a flat plane...
We're not using your nonsense. We're using practical demonstrations to repeat what we see in nature.
Your practical demonstration, Keema, would mean that the people living at the base of that mountain would be below sea level, and they're not.
No. We can replicate what we see on a flat Earth. That's all we need to be able to do.
Like, it's funny, the same people who design, say, camera lenses that make things like this image possible are the people who study optics using the exact same mathematics that are being presented here. It's all about angular sizes.
They're all wrong.
So if you just, when you just dismiss this as, your mathematics and saying that it's somehow not applicable to reality, how come it's working for all these lens designers and people who invent, say, contact lenses and any other system that's designed to focus light? They use it exclusively using our mathematics, and it seems to work. How do you explain that? Seems like a practical demonstration to me, if anything.
Yes, but when we're talking about the flat Earth, you're not able to model it because of how the light bends in the atmosphere. So on a flat Earth, we can replicate what we see.
Thanks, Bev.
Obviously, we can't calculate it because that would require a model. But when it comes to
can't replicate, Keema.
So we can't calculate it now. When it comes to a practical demonstration, we can show you what's happening, and then you can work it out for yourself.
No, what you've done so far is speculate what's happening and leave a bunch of variables unknown, like the temperatures at the top of the tower versus the mountain, whether the salt has anything to do with it. Apparently you were wrong about that. I don't know if this is true or not, but apparently you were incorrect about whether salt makes something more dense or less dense in air. Like, you're basing this off of a lot of speculations, which may or may not even be correct. This is not practical demonstrations, Chemo. This is just thought experiments.
You're saying if you add salt to a medium, it becomes less dense. Medium.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying I don't know. But it seems, based on the fact that someone was contradicting you on that you might not even be right.
Yeah, so you agree with the idea that if you add salt, it becomes less dense?
I didn't say I agree. I don't think you were
No, you
listening.
didn't say you agreed, Chemo.
What are you bringing it up for?
You brought
to bring up the fact that what you've brought up previously are speculations that may or may not even be right. Like, you could be right about the salt thing. The other guy could be right about the salt thing. Only one of you is right,
what you know about
so one of you is wrong.
If you add salt to a medium, does it become more or less dense?
I think it depends.
Let's look at past evidence, shall we?
Give me an example where you can add salt to a medium and it becomes less dense.
Don't change the subject.
Emerald.
That's not
Give me an example where you add salt to a medium and it becomes less dense.
Don't change the subject.
Chemo, that's an elementary question. You could answer that question in 2 seconds, and everybody else could if you thought about it. Let's move on, man. Seriously.
Well, I just want to hear from Emerald. The point is not specific. I was wrong. So what is right? If you add salt to a medium,
I'm not even trying to bring it back up. I'm just trying to point out that what you've been talking about are mostly speculations as to how this observation could be possible on a flat Earth. And it's fine. I think that's a good thing. I think that's what people should be doing more, is actually addressing this point and trying to come up with a flat Earth explanation for it. The issue is it's at this speculation phase. And it's not yet anything concrete.
It's the same as the sun for me. The sun appears to go below the Earth, lower than your feet, but we know in reality the sun is in the sky.
No, we don't know that. How do you know that?
Yeah, you're presupposing again
that because
the sun always remains above our eye level.
Without a force.
How has water got to do with the position of the sun?
Because water is what you need to curve around the ball.
Yeah, but how has that got to do anything with position of the sun?
Because without gravity, your model doesn't work.
Okay, but how's that got to do with anything with the position of the sun?
I've just told you what you think you know about the sun is not true. It doesn't work.
Let's assume I know nothing, right? Yeah. Let's start with a blank slate where you have no assumptions, nothing, right? How do you know the sun stays higher?
Because if you go high, so now we're going to find out if you go higher beyond the magnification, and then you'll see the sun in their true form.
Yeah, but how do you know? Have you gone that high?
No, we've done experiments.
You've done experiments, and what have they told you?
That if you remove the atmospheric lensing, you get a different effect.
Okay, but what about the position of the sun? How do you know the sun doesn't go below the Earth?
Well, I'd like to know how Chemo removed the atmospheric lensing from the sun. I mean, obviously, if he did the experiment, then he found a way to manipulate the the atmospheric lensing. How did you manage that, Chemo?
You remove your predicted cause, add your predicted cause, and then manipulate.
Yeah, and your predicted cause is the atmospheric lensing. How did you manage to remove that?
Don't remove the atmosphere. That's the effect.
Oh, so when you criticize, wait. This sounds an awful lot like your exact criticism against gravity experiments, Chemo. Are you being a little hypocritical?
What does it sound like?
Well, it sounds like when people say, "Hey, we've tested gravity, we've done experiments," and then you say, "Oh, really? Like, show manipulating gravity, make it stick to a ball." You're doing the same thing. You're just saying, "Oh, we did an experiment," but you're not showing anything.
I've just posted it.
Unless I'm incorrect, and you did in fact remove the atmospheric lensing. How did you do that?
I posted it in the chat for you. Are you blind?
You did that with the sun? You removed all the atmospheric lensing?
No, you don't remove the atmosphere. Stick the cause lensing.
No, I didn't say remove the atmosphere. I said remove the atmospheric lensing.
No, you don't remove the atmospheric lensing.
Well, then how do you know the atmospheric lensing is causing anything?
Yeah, so there's a lensing effect that causes the objects to appear larger, smaller.
That you just said the magic word. You said that this lensing effect causes something. So it is your independent variable, and you must therefore manipulate the atmospheric lensing.
Not the atmosphere, the lensing.
Yeah. How did you remove the lensing?
I'll post it again.
Come on, Spurs. Wiggle it just a little bit.
Maybe I missed it in the chat, but I don't see where you posted it.
There we go. If you manipulate your independent variable, i.e. the lens, you would get a different effect.
What timestamp in this video do you manipulate the lensing?
It's around a minute or so.
Now, what Chemo was saying is if you do this, which he hasn't, you will get this effect, which he hasn't proven.
Around a minute.
I still don't understand how he knows that the sun is higher up and doesn't go below.
He doesn't. He just
experimentation.
Start
from about 55 seconds.
You never did any such experiment. You never do any experiments.
Start from about 55 seconds.
Know these things you are
saying. You'll see the experiment in effect.
You didn't do any experiment.
Chemo, you see what you did in this video, right? You didn't remove the lensing from the boat. You just added lensing somewhere else and said, "Oh, that looks the same." So that must be it.
So if you remove the lens, you get a different effect.
You're not removing a lens. You're adding a lens to a tabletop.
Yeah. So if Ranty was going to model the flat Earth, you would need to model it with the lens included.
Why would we include this lens that sort of violates the known principles of optics, like perspective?
Because you're trying to
we
model
know that the
flat
atmosphere
Earth.
lenses things, but it's at most, say, half a degree.
Yeah, but you're trying to model the flat Earth.
Yeah.
So when you model the flat Earth, include a lens like this.
You haven't experimentally proven the lens.
Yeah. You've just shown that a lens can produce a similar effect on a
Same
tabletop.
effect, yeah. We can make objects look like they're going under the Earth on a flat table.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that you've shown that the atmosphere has a lens. It just means that the lens does a similar thing to the atmosphere.
Okay.
It's not a table.
Thank you. Yeah, we were able to show what we saw in nature.
Yeah, this is a classical logical fallacy of saying if P then Q, Q therefore P. You're saying that if there is a lens in the atmosphere, we will see this. We see this with a lens, therefore the atmosphere is a lens.
No, I see and observe phenomena in nature which needs explaining. I predict the cause to this effect, which is lensing. I manipulate the independent variable, which is the lensing, add and remove, and we get.
But you haven't.
No,
you haven't.
You've only added.
Done anything in the atmosphere. You've done something to a magnifying glass.
Yeah, you've placed a lens in front of a thing on a tabletop. You haven't actually manipulated the atmosphere here.
Wouldn't manipulate the atmosphere.
Well, then what's doing the lens? You're saying the atmosphere is making the lensing.
Yeah, but we're looking for the cause,
right? So we got.
Seems like you caught your own trap there.
Yeah.
Chemo, they got you, man.
Good one, Emerald. Good work, dude.
You're claiming that the atmosphere is doing this thing called atmospheric lensing. Yeah, you're claiming that the atmosphere is producing a lensing effect. If that's what you want to test, atmospheric lensing, not just any arbitrary lensing.
No. There's an effect in nature that is caused
which you
by
haven't
something.
tested.
So I predict the cause to that something, which is the lensing. If I wiggle the lensing, add or remove the lensing,
tested the prediction.
I will get a different effect.
Where are you saying that this is happening? In the atmosphere or on your tabletop?
What we see in nature, we see objects appearing to go lower. They appear to go lower.
The problem I have with your lensing, I'm looking at this lens in your video, and it seems to change perspective as well, which means like it's actually making things appear bigger than they should. But we don't see that in the real world. We see things following a uniform perspective. So
it's built right into perspective, Chemo.
The point of it being equivalent is false.
It's built right into perspective.
I'm slightly confused on the gotcha.
Chemo, you can't even claim equivalence because it doesn't show equivalence.
I seem to think that when we make the prediction in nature, we're supposed to do the experiment in nature.
It's falling apart very quickly, Chemo. I think you're going to have to abandon this belief that you have about this.
Or I need to correct you on the way that you
have no reason. You have no reason to believe this to be true, do you?
Well, I have to correct you guys on how to do science now. I understand the misconception.
Chemo, no, they got you, man. Chemo.
The misconception is clear. So can I ask them a question? You thought that you would see an observation in nature and then go in nature and repeat what you saw in nature in nature. No, that's not what you do. See an observation in nature. You go to the laboratory. You try to repeat what you saw in nature in the laboratory.
Right. Yeah? Okay, so you would need to get some atmosphere. Not a magnifying glass, but some atmosphere.
That's not the cause. Yeah.
And try and repeat with
I didn't say atmosphere. The atmosphere
okay,
was the cause.
So Chemo, what's happening? Is the atmosphere causing lensing, or is there a physical lens between us and the sun?
There is a lens effect through the water.
Through what water?
The water in the air.
Okay, so now you need to manipulate the water in the air.
So I could just stick a pencil in the cup.
Lensing effect.
Okay, fine. I can stick a pencil in the cup, and it makes it look bigger.
No, that's not water in the air. That's water in liquid form. Try again.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I can take water and use it as a lens.
Use water vapor and water droplets.
Yeah, there's a difference between. Do you know?
It doesn't matter what the lens is.
The water's in space. Now, don't strawman chemo. Now,
it doesn't matter what the lens I use. I'm saying the lens is the cause.
Of course, it matters what lens you use.
Why
That's
does
ridiculous.
What you're trying to claim is
why
that
does it
the
matter
atmosphere is. What you're trying to claim is that the water in the atmosphere is behaving like a lens.
But
so
if we say relative density is the cause, what does it matter of the density that I use?
What you've shown, Chemo. What you've shown, Chemo, is that a lens behaves like a lens. You need to show that the atmosphere behaves like a lens.
Well, that's what we do. So what we do is we see an observation in nature. We see something lower than the eye level. So we try to repeat that, getting something to look like it's lower than it actually is. So we can
if it doesn't matter what lens people use, then why do you complain about people using fisheye lenses to film things?
But we can make things look lower than they actually are. So that's the point. So I can replicate.
Can we use a concave lens in this situation, perhaps?
Yeah, but the idea is to replicate what you see in nature. So I said to you, the sun appears to be lower.
No, it's not. How is that? You're supposed to be testing that. You're not supposed to be just creating something that looks vaguely like nature, are you?
Yes,
you're
I want my experiment to agree with hypothesis.
No, you're supposed to be testing the things in nature.
No.
To see if you can determine the cause for something.
No, that's not science.
This is cause and effect, Chemo, not recreation. Sketching.
No, that's incorrect.
Yeah,
arts and crafts hour.
Can I make a science fair model of it?
Yeah, that's incorrect. That is pseudoscience. What you guys are talking about? Pseudoscience.
Cause and effect is pseudoscience. Okay? You're gonna want to tell this to Nathan Oakley. This will be news to him.
Testing the actual substances involved is pseudoscience.
That is pseudoscience.
You've told us hundreds of times that you're all about cause and effect, and now you're saying you're not.
Right.
What's the cause of this substance?
You tell us.
You tell me. You're going to make the claim.
No, you're the one that's saying that you're the one that's already made the claim and are claiming also that you have a scientific experiment that backs it up. So you tell us, what is your presumed cause here?
Lensing.
Oh, I'm going to enjoy playing this game with you.
Lensing.
All right. So lensing.
Yep.
So if lensing, then what? What's
then
the hypothesis?
You get things lower in the distance appearing than they're supposed to.
So lensing makes things lower.
Yes.
Right, so how are you going to establish that there is lensing in the atmosphere?
By coming up with an experiment to agree with my hypothesis.
But how? Because all that does is show that a lens, a magnifying lens, acts like a magnifying lens. That
makes what does the magnifying lens do?
But how are you linking
it? Turn it on and
off? Hold on, Don. I've got this. So what does the magnifying lens do?
But how are you establishing that the atmosphere does the same thing as the lens?
Because I'm going to do an experiment. That's my hypothesis.
Created a cause. You haven't proven it's the cause.
Right.
By creating a hypothesis, if it agrees, if my experiment agrees with hypothesis, well then I'm right.
I could say that when someone walks away, someone is cutting off their body from the bottom up, and that's making them look shorter. I can go into a lab and start chopping people to bits and pieces.
How are you going to
you think that's going to prove how things get lower?
How are you going to test that?
I'll go into a lab with my best friend. He'll unwittingly walk into the lab, and he'll walk out with no legs. But you know what? He'll be shorter after it.
So there's your answer. You've got the cause of things obstructed.
Chemo, at best, you've demonstrated an effect. You haven't demonstrated the cause. You've demonstrated an effect. Big deal.
So, Chemo, according to your science, your definition of science, which you've been ahhing me along this whole time, I can say that objects are obstructed from the bottom up because someone is chopping the bottom of objects off as they go away from me. Do you see the problem with that? How your version of science can lead to ridiculous conclusions.
Well, that's what I'm asking you. How are you going to test it?
Well, he would get a little model of some people, chop their legs off, and see if they appeared the same as they do in the atmosphere.
They do.
Where did we see chopping in nature?
I could build the. In fact, I could even make this a tasty surprise. I
could
make a
fine.
boat out
Show
of
me
cake,
the chopping in nature.
And I could start slicing pieces off the bottom
Let's have
of
a look
that
at
boat
slicing
cake,
in
and I'll be
nature.
enjoying cake while watching the boat do exactly what it does in nature.
Show me slicing in nature.
So you're saying things don't get obstructed from
No, he didn't say that. He said cut and slice. In the laboratory, he's going to cut and slice.
Oh,
so
no,
that's
just my presumed cause. The observed phenomenon is obstruction from the bottom up.
Yeah, where do we see cut and slice in nature?
You can see all kinds of objects whose
Okay,
bottom
show me cut and slice. Let's have a look.
Oh, it's in your video.
Cut and slice. What was cut?
It's not
the bottom of the boat.
It's an
object.
What
do they cut it with? What do they slice it with?
It's an object obstructed.
I know, but he said cut and slice in the laboratory.
Yeah, so because that's his hypothesis.
Oh, no. Okay, so what did he see cut and slice in the laboratory?
And he knows that presumed cause is correct because he tested it in a laboratory.
What's he going to cut? What's he going to cut?
He got some things. He got some objects, little models of things. He cut the legs off the action man.
Yeah,
and then that appeared. In fact, it was an action man in a boat. He cut the bottom off the
with what?
Boat,
with what?
And that with a knife.
Ah, so where did you see the knife in nature?
It doesn't really matter with what. He produced the effect.
Where do you see a magnifying glass?
I didn't say a magnet. I said a lens.
All right. Where do you see a lens in
nature?
We see that when things are disappearing bottom first.
Where? Well, I have never seen a lens in nature. Where is one? Show me a lens in nature.
You saw Ranty's picture.
That isn't a lens. That's a picture of a mountain. There's no lens.
The only way, and that picture, that mountain is.
Where's the lens in the picture? Where is it?
It's in the picture.
Where in the picture?
Where? Which pixel is the center of that lens?
The atmosphere, acting like a lens.
But trace it out, Spurs. Show us where the lens is.
That effect.
There's a subtle difference here,
the
though,
effect
Kimo.
you're looking at, the lower mountain, is the lens in effect.
You've made a subtle shift there, Kimo.
That is an assumption, yes. That is my hypothesis. So the only way to know this, Emerald, is with an experiment.
To now saying that something acts like a lens. So
yeah,
why can't
the
I just
atmosphere
say,
acts like a lens. That's
the
what I said.
atmosphere acts like a knife and appears to
So how are you manipulating the atmosphere?
The atmosphere? We're manipulating the lens in was. Get your mind right.
No, you said
I got it right. Get yours right,
in the same way that
You're all over the place,
same way that I'm manipulating the slicing.
You wish was.
I don't have to show you a knife because by your logic, all I have to do is show you that the way the atmosphere works looks like the effect of a knife cutting things off from the bottom.
Where's the knife? Where's the cutting?
You have to show that.
It's in the picture. It's right there. Do you not see what it's doing?
He showed the knife. He got the effect he wanted.
Oh, so in Ranty's picture there was a knife.
Yeah, it's right there at the bottom of the mountain. That's why it's
well, hold on. Is it yes, no, yes, no? Two answers.
Your experiment is all about duplicating the effect, not establishing the cause.
Yes, no, yes, no. There is a knife. There's not a knife. What's the answer?
No, you have not made a connection with a cause. You have only made a connection with an effect.
Yeah, but what is the answer? Yes or no? There is or there isn't a knife?
Yeah, Kima, the answer to the question, is there a knife, is the same as the answer, is there a lens, when we asked you.
Emerald, 1 second there. So, Kimo, just so you know, just because I want to help you out here, because you feel a little lost. You seem like you're back in the
Hold on a second, Zan. So you're saying, Emerald, there is a knife in nature cutting the bottom off of objects.
To help you out.
Hold on, Zan. Hold on. I just want to get this out with Emerald. So, Emerald, your predicted cause is a knife cutting the bottom of boats, the sun, and people.
Dickhead. Don't be a dickhead. Because I'm trying to help you out.
We can falsify that, Emerald, because we can see the sun come back again, and it's still a ball. So no one cut the sun. You understand?
All right.
There's no slicing. There's no cutting of anything. Nobody cut the boat. Come back around.
You're doing it.
Oh, you
both go around the plane,
they come back when again. It's underneath you. They could be putting it back together again.
Who?
Whoever lives underneath the earth.
Oh, now fairies are putting things back together again.
I could presume that to be the cause.
Oh, so if you want a magical world, we can work in a magical world. But that's not science, Emma. That's pseudoscience.
Ah, you're seeing the problem. Your method.
Yeah, if you include things that we can't manipulate. Yes.
Kimo, I can't take it. You're exposing the flat Earth position. Please, you're killing me here. I've never seen anything so fucking inconsistent.
You're coming to the realization, Chemo, that your method of science is not science.
Well, Chemo, this is the only method, Emerald, that we'll get knowledge from. Instead of pretending and guessing what the answer is, you have no way of experimenting with your variable.
You realize Emerald's just using your methodology, so you're attacking yourself right now.
Well, I'm asking Emerald how he would use his variable.
So Chemo. Yeah, Chemo, the ultimate ruse here has been that I've been essentially just replacing your own words with my own. I've been presenting the exact same argument you have. I'm not
but I just falsified. Okay, fine. Okay, that was good. I just falsified your cutting because the sun comes around again.
Yep, and by doing so,
not cut.
And by doing so, you falsified your lens.
How did you falsify the lens
in the same way that I'm not actually manipulating the knife or doing anything to test that. You're not doing anything to the atmosphere to test whether or not it's causing lensing.
How did you falsify my test?
Because I don't see a lens anywhere.
That doesn't falsify it, though.
If there's no lens,
you said someone's cutting the sun, and I said we can see the sun come back again. We can follow the sun. No one's cut the sun. So that's falsified your ridiculous claim. Can't be tested. But how can you falsify that it's not lensing in the atmosphere?
Because no lens, no lensing.
I know. Show that it's not lensing.
It's a man-made object.
How are you going to show it's not lensing, Emerald?
Not a sun, a mountain.
No, he tried to flip it now. No, you gotta show it is lensing, Chemo. Come on, man.
Yeah, Chemo. Come on. It's not our job to shoot down your arbitrary claims.
Jeremy,
I think we have a problem here,
guys. It's lensing, you've got to back it up.
Have I still lost it? Hey, should I take a break? Hey, how are you going to show Emerald?
Yeah, you need to take a break.
What do you have, Emerald, to show that it's not lensing?
Think about what you're talking about, and then come back once you think you know it.
Okay, so show me how it's not lensing.
Where do you see a lens
in nature? That's not my job, mate? Yeah, where do you see a lens in nature?
Well, I've just told you. I can replicate the observation I see in nature. It agrees with my hypothesis. Do you have an experiment that agrees with your hypothesis?
You just no, Chemo. You said yourself earlier, you don't have to do the experiment in nature. You're going to do it in a lab. I'm asking you, where in nature do you find a lens? Because you're claiming that the atmosphere is behaving.
Lens is a man-made object.
But I just told you we have an observation in nature that needs answers.
Oh, so it's all right to use the effects of man-made objects.
Right.
You understand that you see something in nature.
Do you get that? Is that what you're saying? It's all right to use the effects of man-made objects.
Hold on a second, I'm just having a word with Emerald here.
I kind of actually want to hear your answer to one.
Are you done, Emerald? Yeah?
But Chemo,
are you done?
Do you want to go past
you're done, Chemo. Yes, you're done.
What was that, Emerald? You say you've done now?
No, you're done, Spurs. Yes, that's right. You're done.
I can't hear Emerald. Hold on
because you're done.
Go ahead, Emerald.
So you're asking the question, how do I know it isn't lensing?
Yeah.
That's not my burden of proof. You're the one. You're the scientist here. You're the one doing an experiment. It's your job to provide evidence for your conclusion. If you haven't done that, that's not my problem.
I provided a link with an experiment that agrees with hypothesis.
No, that says it could be possible, Chemo. And for everybody who wants to keep it possible still, you're disrespecting it by saying you know that it is.
Hold on a second, Don. So, Emerald, I've got an experiment that agrees with what I think happens in nature. Do you have an experiment to show what agrees with you in nature?
Showing an effect is not demonstrating a cause.
Hold on, Bizarre. Yeah, so, Emerald, I have an experiment that agrees with what I think is happening in nature.
And that's not how you do science.
Okay, so do you have an experiment that agrees with what you think is happening in nature?
Emerald, can I say right now?
Are you done, Emerald? I think you've had enough now, yeah? I think you're done now. I think you've been cooked enough, Emerald, yeah?
So, Chemo, the point of this is not... The point of this is not for me to explain what I think is happening. You've told us that in response to me talking about the angular sizes in the Ranty image, you proposed that atmospheric lensing is happening. You're not going to get out of explaining this by flipping this around. So continue with your explanation of how this is atmospheric lensing. You purport to have an experiment here, but what you're actually manipulating is a magnifying glass.
Okay.
And then somehow tenuously linking that to the atmosphere. That's the link that you haven't yet
I
fully
see something
explained.
in nature. I have.
Why did you mute me, Spurs? Hey, why did you mute me?
Hold on a second. I'm just talking to Emerald.
Why did you mute me?
Hold on a second, let me just finish this with Emerald. So,
you can fuck off, you cunt.
Yeah, so until you can show me magnifying glasses in nature that are causing the atmosphere to make this lens.
Yeah, right.
So, Emerald,
fucking idiot.
We see something in nature, and I have a predicted cause to this effect. Okay? So I have an experiment that agrees with what I say happens in nature. Whether you like it or not is not up. It's not down to that. It's not about your opinion.
How are you going to manipulate
the fact. Hold on a second, please. So Emerald, in nature we see something. I have an idea of what is causing this. Now, whether you again have a feeling that it's right or wrong doesn't really matter, because the experiment agrees with the hypothesis. Now you're saying no. So that's fine. Do you then have an experiment that agrees with what you think is happening when we see these observations?
So again, the thing that's in question is whether your experiment actually manipulates the cause you think it is.
Right.
Are you doing a proper cause and effect experiment here, or are you just asserting that because you can use a magnifying glass on a desk that the atmosphere is somehow behaving like a magnifying glass?
Okay, so the question would be that the mountain is lower. Yes? That's what we see, a lower mountain. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so we're trying to figure out, we have an idea of what's causing the mountain to be lower. Yes?
Sure.
So if any of us can conduct an experiment that agrees with what we see, the mountain being lower, if we can show that.
They did, dude.
If we can show the mountain being lower.
For you, bro.
Okay. Then it agrees with
why are you ignoring our experiment, bro?
Yeah, I believe
Ruhif. Why are you ignoring our experiment, man?
Ruhif went through a bunch of simulations that show exactly what his expectations are on different models.
That's fine. Does he have an experiment?
What's that?
Does he have an experiment?
Yes, I just posted one.
Yeah,
Emerald, I can't hear what you're saying.
No,
does Conspiracy Cats have an experiment?
Why don't you mute them all, Spurs? Mute everyone except for Emerald, and then you can talk to Emerald.
I don't know about Conspiracy Cats, but Ruhif for sure simulated a whole bunch of different variables like refraction and shape.
Emerald.
And guess what? You know what recreates reality the closest is a sphere with refraction.
Is that in the experiment, yes?
Oh, sure, yeah, he manipulated the refraction, he manipulated the shape.
All right, that's what I want to hear. Can you provide that experiment? I can have a look.
So there you go. Your definition of science only needing to reproduce the effects has just proven the globe.
Do you have an experiment, Emerald, that you can post?
Oh,
I see it. We all see it.
Just watch Ruhif's video.
Let's stand up for Emerald, everybody. Let's not let Chemo play stupid.
Well, Emerald, do you have an experiment that I can see?
Thank you,
that
Emerald.
I just told you Ruhif's experiment.
I can't hear you. Everyone else is talking all over you.
Yeah, I just told you about Ruhif's experiment. You can go back and watch the video. I'm sure.
Which video? Can you post the link?
I don't have the link on hand. It's the one where he goes through the simulations.
Which one? I've never seen his channel before.
You've never seen his channel?
Liar.
Interesting.
So you don't have an experiment to agree with your hypothesis?
I posted one.
Oh, I have it and I've described it. I don't have the link to the video right now.
Describe it, but you can't post it.
I'll get that to you.
Does it sound like I'm struggling, guys?
Turned down enough, but I posted
so you got to understand. Remember who are the leaders of the new school. Okay, not about he's making mistakes. We've got to be clear on what we're talking about. Now, as long as we have an experiment that agrees with the observation,
I hear you over.
That's all we're interested in.
I hear you, bro.
Now, if you're saying, well, I don't feel that your experiment is what I think is going on, well, then provide an experiment that agrees with your hypothesis.
Isn't that what Randy's whole video was about? Was their experiment, bro? They drew the drawing for you. It matched the drawing. That's their experiment right there. Boom.
So can you post it? Let's have a look.
They did the numbers. Well, they've done it and see this. Well, come on, man. You gotta be on the real deal team, man, to get that. I don't know how people.
So it looks like you're struggling now. I think you need a break.
So I posted Ruhif's channel.
Problem now.
Even though I know
it's probably in the
it's probably
in the original 2-hour broadcast with the 3 of them. If anyone has that,
I think you guys are having a bit of a problem now.
Exactly.
So
really, we're winning, man. At first, man. But
no. Again, it's a very simple endeavor. He says, "I disagree with the experiment." Not a problem. Show an experiment that agrees with your hypothesis. You haven't done that.
They got you on recording. They're gonna expose the shit out of you right now, bro. Unless they finna lynch you on the.
So Emerald,
Nathan on the quantum eraser side.
Got to fix your mic, Don.
Yep. I'm trying to find it.
Ah, you're looking for it. Excellent.
Yeah.
Chemo, this isn't a good look.
If I recall, I'll probably find it in the original broadcast where Ranty talked and Katz.
There we go. Now we're back in business.
Chat. Does anyone have that on hand?
All of you guys who are worried
long.
and that was falling or slipping, just be patient, okay? And we'll get back on top of things. Okay, slight confusion on how experiments are conducted. I understand that you guys feel that the experiment should be done in nature. So if we say the atmosphere or the sun does something, you think we should take the actual sun into the laboratory, take the actual atmosphere into the laboratory, and do experiments with the sun. No,
exactly.
It's not like
that's what you guys say when we talk about gravity. You say, Riley has said in the past, bring another planet here and let's see how you manipulate gravity.
Now I understand the problem.
Let's see water sticking to a ball on Earth. Yeah,
that's just you. That's just you reflected back on you. Spurs.
Now I see where you're going wrong.
How you gonna manipulate the atmosphere, mate?
I know, you're saying
where's
take
the lens?
The whole
a lens is a man-made object.
Laboratory.
A lens is a man-made object. How are you going to mute me now?
Really
I mean, how are you going to manipulate that now?
Well, you're being very drunk and belligerent.
No, you're being belligerent.
You are out of control. I wouldn't recommend you drive.
You are out of control.
I'm being mic test. Is this any better?
No, not at all, Don.
No?
No, don't try muting yourself.
I wouldn't recommend you operate machinery, even your computer was.
I wouldn't recommend you operate Discord, Spurs.
Are you okay?
I just said that was to you. You shouldn't operate any machinery.
I just said that to you, Spurs, in reply to what you said to me.
You sound very drunk, Chemo. You're right.
What have you had? What's it called?
What are you on, Spurs?
Again, Chemo, because you sound
how many joints have you had, Spurs?
What is it called?
How many joints have you had?
That
I heard you pulling some before.
The green stuff.
I heard you pulling a few joints before, mate. What? How many have you had?
I'll remember the name soon.
Yeah.
I wouldn't operate any heavy machinery, Chemo.
It's meant to be the highest volume or
if you're stoned off your head, mate, you should go operate heavy machinery. It might drop on your head.
Where's
the original video?
Can you hear me, do you think?
I can hear foolish.
Yeah, I can hear you. Whose channel is the original video on where they're all in a chat hangout?
Isn't it on Cat's channel?
The Cats or Modern Day Debate would be my guess. We're one of those two.
Aha, you see, you have no experiments that agree with your hypothesis. And that's why we are the leader of New School,
atmosphere.
We have experiments that agree.
Chemo, how do you
manipulate the atmosphere, Spurs?
Yeah.
You've got to remove the atmosphere.
You going then?
How do you remove the atmosphere?
You silly wanker.
There. Now he's back on the original side there.
I'm just excited because I was able to show you guys how to cite.
I know you're in trouble because you mimic the Aussie accent. That's when you're in trouble.
Because you make me laugh when you go on. How do you explain it then? Go on in, because you know when you've lost the argument.
That's when you've lost. Yeah, you have to mimic us.
All right, Emerald, is this the video here?
Maybe. Let me scrub through.
All right, what was his independent variable? There's an experiment, yes?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. What's obviously the mountain would observe phenomena. Yeah, what was the independent variable?
Yep. The shape of the Earth.
Was the independent variable. Okay. And the dependent variable?
To you, though,
where the mountain appears relative to the tower.
What's your alternative hypothesis?
The Earth is flat. Or sorry, that the Earth is a globe.
And the null?
That the Earth is flat.
Okay, so how are you testing this? How are you manipulating your independent variable?
So if you scrub between somewhere, if you scrub between around 14 minutes in the video and then around 15 minutes in the video, you'll see that he's manipulating in his program there. Which of the two models he's using?
He's manipulating.
He's manipulating the shape of the Earth, and he's getting.
How do you manipulate the shape of the Earth?
No, he's manipulating a computer program.
Yeah, you just flip a switch on the computer program, and the computer program tells you what you get.
I mean, you shouldn't have a problem with that because you did the magnifying lens experiment, right?
If you're Spurs is manipulating
for you really fast.
Oh,
right, Spurs is not manipulating anything but a computer program, right?
We're done for.
Yeah.
Right, Spurs? Nothing but a computer program. That's all he's manipulating.
Man. How did you let him get you like this, bro?
We're done, Don. They got me good and proper now. On a computer, they
You've been given a good rogering,
you manipulated
Spurs.
your independent variable on a computer? You're kidding me, right?
You've been given a good rogering, Spurs.
You've got to be kidding me, yes?
Say it again.
Atmospheric lensing on a table? You're kidding me, right?
Are you saying to me 100 years ago you could do this experiment, Emerald?
Are you telling me that a man-made lens is a natural object in your
Emerald? 100 years ago, could you do this experiment?
I don't care. Fuck all about what
You're
people
being
did 100
belligerent,
years ago.
Spurs. Calm down, mate. What have you been drinking? Fuck hell.
Cocaine speaking.
You're off your head.
Yeah, like what does 100 years ago have to do with any of this?
That's what it is.
You're drunk. You're drunk as a skunk, Spurs. Listen to yourself.
I'm intoxicated off your
fumes. This wasn't taken 100 years ago.
So,
Renty's picture wasn't taken 100 years ago, so I don't see why you're bringing that
100
up like
years ago, could this experiment have been conducted?
The one specifically using the computer program? Of course not. We didn't have computers 100 years ago.
Exactly.
Not good ones.
But you know what we did have, Chemo? We also had, pencils and paper and the ability to do the maths.
And lensing.
Yeah.
So we always had lensing.
Maybe not Ruhif's experiment, but instead perhaps the one that uses trigonometry could have worked 100 years ago.
So 100 years ago, when they knew it was a ball, how would they have proven this mountain 100 years ago?
Well, we had lensing in the lenses, Spurs. The lenses had lensing, remember?
Emerald, how would they have demonstrated this
Tell him, Emerald.
observation
Tell him about lensing.
100 years ago?
Yeah, so this would be the same trigonometry argument that Ranty brought up, which is we know the distances between, say, the observer and the 2 points. We know the heights of the objects, and we know what angle they should form due to perspective. And it turns out that on a flat Earth, you get the wrong answer. On a globe Earth, you get the right answer. There you go.
So, all based on a presupposition, there's no experiment.
What are you talking about?
Spurs, stop badgering.
Oh, no, you're missing the point, though. You even said as much so far, Chemo. You've even admitted that the point of your scientific method is to recreate what we see in reality in our experiment. And that's what was done.
I did that
with lenses.
Yeah, but your independent variable was the Earth.
Of course, yeah.
How are you going to manipulate the Earth?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I manipulate the Earth in the program because it doesn't have to be in nature by your own admission.
Oh my gosh, on a computer.
Of course, yeah.
Is that how
you
you're
even
going to
said
do
it
science
yourself.
on
It
a
doesn't have to be
computer?
done in nature.
You're not going to do any real world practical experiment.
There you go.
You're going to play a game.
On a computer.
So you play games
through a lens or on a computer. Take your pick, Spurs.
To the real scientists.
Spurs.
Yeah.
Take your pick, mate. Through a lens or on a computer. Which one is
the
it?
trigonometry
Yeah, you
argument
can
doesn't
play
even have to.
computer games. We'll do the science.
And you can
The trigonometry
play
argument
lens
doesn't even
games.
have to be done on a computer. We could just use pencil and paper.
Yeah,
which
you
are
play
arguably less
Did you
complex
use
than
to
a
burn
magnifying
ants when you were a
glass.
kid, Spurs, with a lens? Did you used to burn ants?
Yeah,
using
play your
the
computer
using the
games.
lens.
We're
There
going
you
to stick
go.
to science.
It's a man-made object, mate.
Emerald,
Excuse
tell me
me,
about
sir.
your. Tell me more about your computer game. How did you prove the
Chemo, I would like you to address my question. I've been trying for a while here. All right, you did a lens experiment, and I just did the Great Walnut Mountain experiment with the Blackpool nickel. And I'm just wondering how that experiment is not the same as what you've done.
What did you do?
At let's see, 8:43. I'm sorry, 8:44. I posted a video.
Just tell me about the experiment. What is it?
No, it's a very 5-second experiment. Take a look at it.
What is the experiment?
I replicated Blackpool Tower.
How?
Go look at the video.
Tell me.
Where is it?
No. Are you just not going to do anything, Spurs? You're not going to do any real work?
Yeah, tell me what you did.
You got 5 seconds. It takes 5 seconds.
Tell me your hypothesis.
That curve will account for the Blackpool observation.
Curvature is the cause, yeah?
Yep. Go ahead, look.
Ooh, yeah.
I don't need to look.
That's pretty
you just
definitive.
Need to tell me your cause.
Ooh. In fact, you know what? You've done this in the same exact scenario that Chemo did.
Curvature is the cause, yeah?
You've done this on a table.
So we don't need to go any further than that, Moya. If curvature is the cause, we can just measure it.
Hey, look at the video. Sir, look at the video. Be an honest fuck.
Post it again. Post it again, but it doesn't require looking at it because you've given us geometry. Yes.
Right. I mean, of course, Chemo. Evidence doesn't require being looked at all. That's why we
just post it again, Moya.
I think that's pretty definitive. It's at 44 after the hour. It's a short.
Oh, well, don't post it again. We can just talk about it.
It's right there.
Well, I find it amazing that the first thing we normally get out of Chemo's mouth is show us a video.
Show the video. Where is it?
99% of the time.
It's at 44 after the hour. It's a short MP4.
Now I can see it.
Of the chat.
There you go. Right now. Quick.
Now I can see it. Okay, so you've got, as I suspected, Moyak, physical geometry measured. On the Earth, you don't have a physical measurement to back up your hypothesis.
Oh, but it doesn't matter. We don't have to do the experiment in nature. You admitted that.
You want to show us you manipulating atmospheric lensing?
Why is Spurs asking questions?
It doesn't require science.
I want to really challenge you guys. I really want to challenge y'all. If y'all,
it doesn't require science because you said there's a physical.
Why are you letting him run your errands?
Yeah, Chemo, you've admitted 2 things, and you've made it very clear that you believe these 2 things. 1, all we have to do for the experiment to be good is reproduce what we see in nature. And 2, the experiment itself doesn't have to be done in nature. What I see in Moyakman's video is, hey, what do you know? This is recreating what we see, obstruction of an object due to curvature, and hey, it's not done in nature. This satisfies every one of your criteria for being a good experiment. So if you're going to reject this, you need to... Oh, of course it is. It fits all your criteria. It follows all your rules.
How has he manipulated the curvature?
Yeah, you'll have to reject your own experiment.
He's rotating the bottle. He is rotating the bottle and using a curved surface to demonstrate
obstruction. Too rich.
Yeah, no, for real.
Emerald,
we're all telling you, reverse yourself here, buddy.
You're sunk, buddy.
No, my bad.
You might want to take a break.
Oh, now he wants a break.
Really?
Yeah,
don't have a well-deserved break.
Spurs should not be asking questions here. He should be answering questions.
That's correct.
47 past the hour, Emerald. I provided you with about 10,000 physical measurements of Earth curvature, in case Chemo wants measurements.
Crap.
Don, you better give Chemo a good old yank by his leash. He's gotten out of line. He's not going to get any biscuits today.
Oh, I'm using my lines.
For real,
like
you were
called
killing
a dog,
him at first.
did you?
I thought we were going to talk about heavenly harmony. You know, these guys believe in heavenly harmony.
Don, you're not a flat earther, so you don't be gatekeeping the truth.
They run fucking media, you know.
Don, you're not a flat earther. You're wasting time for the truth. Okay.
Yeah, it's a comedy hour with a special section of made-up science.
I'd like to close this out. How is my experiment not as valid as your magnifying glass?
Because you've got a physical geometric edge. It's not the same. We don't have a physical geometric edge on the Earth.
You have a physical geometric lens.
I recreated the observation. You don't have a physical lens.
No. An edge. There's a
physical
drop.
Doesn't happen in atmosphere, Chemo.
You're not replicating what we see in nature. We never see a physical drop from elevation, Moyak.
We see a lens.
No, we're talking about your picture with the...
We're talking about why mine's not valid and yours is valid.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, Chemo. All that matters to you is that it recreates what we see in nature.
Yes? You're saying that it has physical drop.
Close enough, you wouldn't see the drop either.
No one has ever observed physical drop or measured physical curvature, Moyak. That is a presupposition.
I've just put 10,000 plus measurements of physical curvature in the chat at 47 minutes past the hour. So stop lying about it.
That is a presupposition, Moyuk. Okay, so
it's a good read, Chemo.
The Earth is curving.
Foolish, you should tag Chemo on that too. It's a good 902-page read. Maybe it'll keep you out of here for a bit.
Yeah, but Chemo, I'm sorry. Your image, your video does not show or we have no observation of a lens in nature. So could you please tell me what's essentially different between mine and yours, even using your methodology of thinking?
Okay, so
you have to admit that your test is flawed.
Yeah. So the difference between mine and yours is a measurement required, and mine is a scientific phenomena that we have to explain. Now you're saying, I'm taking this physical object, rotating it, and this is how much it drops by. So all we've got to do is measure that. It doesn't require science. But if you're saying, well, we have an observation in nature that is curious, we don't know if it's a ball or flat, okay, then we have to explain this observation on what we see, which is a flat plane. Things look lower. Can we explain that? You're already presupposing a ball, which doesn't require a presupposition. Just measure the curvature, and then the observation explains itself.
You did your experiment on a table, which presupposes that it's flat.
Hold on, Emerald, that's fine. Let's throw out Moyok's observation. It's no good. And we'll throw out Chemo's magnifying glass, and let's get back to Chemo. How are you going to manipulate atmospheric lensing to demonstrate your experiment?
So, Moik, that's clear, right? The fact that you're saying this is how much is obstructed, you can measure that. There's no science required. Now, obviously, if you're on a flat plane and you're saying we've got an observation that doesn't make sense, how do you explain this on a flat plane? Remember, the point was, how do you explain this on a flat Earth? So we can explain this on a flat Earth using lensing. Now you're saying, but no, the Earth is curving. Okay, fine. Show the drop, the measurement, and then this is self-explanatory. You don't need science to explain the mountain. Understand?
Want to show us your experiment where
you're going to have Emerald, by the way. He'll ignore your questions when he doesn't want to answer them, and no matter how often you try and pin his feet to the fire, he'll just basically ignore them and go back to the point that he wants.
Well, that's why we need to really make this all about Chemo and how Chemo is going to manipulate the atmospheric lensing to demonstrate that he isn't full of shit. I mean, like
in the same way that you're making this kind of argument about how we could just measure the curve, how come we don't measure how strong of a lens the atmosphere is? What's the concavity or the convexity of this lens that you say the atmosphere is behaving like? How big is it? Is it made out of glass? Is it made out of plastic? What's the index of refraction? You don't need science.
The measurements are unknown. Nobody knows the measurements of the Earth, the lensing, the space, how big, the size.
Well, you need to manipulate the atmosphere so you can measure
the lensing. You said no one knows the measurements of the lensing. So why the hell are you claiming that that's the cause of anything?
You don't need any measurements to know the cause and effect.
But you weren't talking about cause and effect. We brought up cause and effect half an hour ago, and you shot it down. You said all you need to do instead is just recreate what you see in nature. You see, you're flip-flopping back and forth pretty quick here, Keenan.
Well, you're not listening, Emerald. You're desperate for a win. You're desperate to try and outsmart a flat earther, which is going to be desperately impossible. You've got one that requires a measurement, okay? And you have another that requires an explanation.
You're outsmarting yourself.
Because you guys say the Earth is not flat, and say, how does this work on a flat Earth? Now, you can't make this work on a flat Earth with your numbers. With your measurements, this doesn't work. But with an experiment, it does work. Now, it's up to you to make measurements after the scientists, like myself, have provided you with a scientific experiment and given you the answer.
Oh, where's the scientific experiment again?
Yeah, where have you manipulated the atmosphere?
No one's measuring anything. We're looking at the observation.
If you're not making any measurements, then what are you doing here?
We require an explanation for why this works on a flat
Looks like
plane.
we've got here a scientist with no measurements, folks.
No measurements, no. We don't measure anything. We're not surveyors. We're not carpenters. We don't measure how big the floor is or how wide things are. We look at observed phenomena in nature. A carpenter wouldn't be able to explain
we don't check the dependent variable to see if it's changing. We don't ever
a surveyor would not be able to explain observed phenomena. They measure things. Scientists explain observed phenomena, like what we do.
Share the mic. So, Emerald, this is a good thing, though, because we don't need any measurements. We just need an observation, which means all we really need is Ranty's picture, and there shouldn't be any reason for Chemo to say that we need further measurements. We have the observation. So with that observation, he's going to need to explain it. All right?
Globers are getting dumber by the day.
That doesn't sound like an explanation for the image. That sounds like an explanation for you writhing around.
Yeah, you seem like you're spiraling, Chemo.
Yeah, you've lost it today, Spurs.
You can't learn new.
You lost it again today, Spurs.
Yeah, better luck tomorrow.
Yeah.
Maybe read through that 900-page book.
Keep trying, Spurs.
Of measurements of Earth curvature before you try to claim that there aren't any.
One day when all of science agrees with you, you can have the win.
Between Moyak's explanation and mine, that science will explain the phenomena, and Moyak has given us a practical we can measure how much curvature is on his object.
He's got no measurements in
but we don't have to. Yeah, all he's done is show it. Yeah, no measurements required. The only thing we observe is, hey, look, that coin is taller than the thing in the background.
Don't start running Spurs' errands again, guys.
All we see is, hey, look, curvature explains that coin looking higher than the thing in the background. Oh, this looks just like the reality where the Blackpool Tower is taller than the mountains. So therefore, by your scientific method of your own admission, Chemo, that you laid out for us so kindly an hour ago, curvature is responsible for this. And I don't have to show you it. I don't have to make any measurements. I just have to recreate it in a lab. Thank you. You've proven the globe.
What we could do is we could get a flat piece of paper and we could recreate Moyak's experiment again and see if that flat piece of paper can hide things behind it.
Oh, then we're manipulating the curvature.
Indeed.
That's an even better experiment.
And then we've got both. So what we can say is it's congruent with a curved surface and it's totally antithetical to a flat surface. I just wanted to get antithetical in there for some reason. I don't know.
Well, there you go, Chemo. You've helped bring about the demise of flat Earth.
As well, I'm just saying.
Good point, Sam.
Yeah.
And that's why I offer therapy, because it is a hard thing to understand and accept that
you're wrong.
When you're
I know it's hard to accept that you single-handedly shot yourself in the foot.
If you're trying to explain this observation on a flat Earth, if you're already going with a presupposition of a flat Earth, then you require an experiment, because we know it's flat. You don't need to measure the flatness, we know it's flat. But if you think the Earth is curving, then we need to know the rate of curvature. That requires a measurement.
What we've done with...
So if you're saying that the observer is 12 foot, and the object is this low behind that physical geometric horizon, we need to measure that. We can't science that. Okay? Otherwise, you'll just be guessing the cause. Okay?
No, we are sciencing it because by taking that curved surface and showing its congruency to the fact that that fits very well with the globe, and then when we get a flat surface and try and recreate that same observation and we can't, to me that falsifies the flatness and kind of says, yeah, we haven't falsified the curviness. So we're at that point in the scientific method to say we can falsify flatness because it doesn't actually agree with what we observe in reality. This looks more interesting because it seems to agree with what we see in reality. So we've made a step forward. We've got rid of the flatness, and we now know that there is some curvature. And you're right, the next step, if we didn't already know what it was, would be to go and start creating measurements and more observations, which obviously we've done over the last 200 years, and then put that in a big 902-page book. Yeah, that works, Kimo? Exactly.
So as long as we're clear on why Moyak's doesn't require science, it requires measurements. Okay?
We've denied that. That's been rejected, Chemo. So you need to now come up with a better argument to deal with that objection. Did you hear my objection to it? Did you understand it? Do I need to explain any of it to you? Or was that, I tried to use really simple words for you, mate.
Are you okay tonight, Spurs? I'm not getting DMs from Druss saying he's been muted.
And
I really appreciate that, by the way, Chemo, and I actually applaud you for being that nice. Thank you.
Foolish. I think that you might have fucked up when you brought antithetical into it. I think you lost him. They were all small.
To be fair, that was more for Zant than anybody else. Well, that was for you, Matt. Zant.
Yes, so as long as we're clear on how to conduct science the right way, we will have the right results. Now, obviously,
we are.
But did you slip
I
up,
agree,
Chemo,
yeah.
or was it designed?
Exactly.
Like, that's the most frustrating thing.
So,
I mean,
Chemo,
you helped us through this whole thing, Chemo. The best part about this is we didn't even have to tell you anything. You basically gave us the scientific method to use, and we followed it. And the answer we got is that the Earth's a globe.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, now that we know the proper methodology, too, we'll be awaiting your explanation as to how you plan to manipulate atmospheric lensing. Because very clearly that's what's required.
In the meantime, we can be reproducing gravity in a lab.
I wouldn't go far to say that that proves the Earth's a globe. What I would say is it certainly proves that it's not flat.
Oh,
I
for
think
sure.
we can rule out flat, definitely. I mean, that's now gone because flat in our nice simple experiment doesn't agree with observation.
Oh, yeah,
Therefore,
that's the case anyway.
Reject it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the case anyway. I'm talking about even if you grant, this absurd bastardization of the scientific method as real, then we could go farther and make a stronger statement.
And the great part is Chemo can't claim that they presupposed a globe because Ranty presupposed flat.
Yeah, I presuppose nothing. All I'm basically saying at the moment is, well, according to these observations, it's definitely not flat.
Oh, most certainly. That seems rather conclusive.
Exactly.
So we are clear now then that we already know the Earth is flat. That's a given.
No. We know that it's not.
Trying to explain observations on a flat Earth, like sunsets, like mountains disappearing, like things disappearing bottom up on a flat Earth. So we have, unless you guys have another experiment to explain these phenomena on a flat Earth, you're not in a position to give any answers on this particular subject.
No. We're not flipping this over. This is about your experiment. You proved that it's not flat.
Yeah. We've rejected the flatness, Chemo, through experimentation. Through Moychick's very simple experiment, we have demonstrated it's definitely not flat. It definitely seems to agree with curvature. So that's all good. So no, we don't know it's flat. In fact, actually, we've got way more proof to say it's definitely not flat because it disagrees with what we observe in nature, where Moychick's curve experiment seems to agree much more with what we see in nature. So I think that's a problem for you to be able to say that we know it's flat. No, I'd say that flat is falsified under the Moychick method.
Yeah, and using the Chemo methodology.
This should be ironclad in your own viewpoint.
So what's your feeling now that you know that the Earth isn't flat?
I mean, you and Moychick just partnered up on this and just destroyed the flat Earth. It's great. Like, congratulations.
Can we give you any counselling to help you with the emotional distress you must be feeling currently? As leaders of the new school of thought, we understand now that you've been basically made redundant from that position. We're here to help you. We're here to aid you. We're here to guide you through your next steps. So you can now start defending and advocating for a non-flat world. Exactly.
So as long as we're clear on this mountain observation, we're being asked to explain this observation.
Which Walnut Mountain observation or the Blackpool?
The mountain observation. We've been asked to...
Which one?
Blackpool Swan.
Oh, okay.
Don't know the Blackpool Swan. Could you post an image?
To explain,
I'm not sure if I've seen that
observation
image. Can you post it,
on a flat Earth, because obviously you guys are presupposing a flat Earth. We all know it's a flat Earth, So we go with the flat Earth, and then we try to come up with an explanation for this observation on a flat Earth. What we do at this moment is, because there are no measurements required, because we know the Earth is already flat, we need an experiment to explain this as a phenomenon.
That's called presupposing flat, and that's what you're doing right there, bud.
And conduct our predicted cause to said effect. And if that hypothesis agrees with the experiment, then
we're here
to
science, not your religion.
If you're saying that there is, that's not the cause, then obviously you would need an experiment to show on a flat Earth what is
you would need an experiment to show that it's a flat Earth.
To be lower than the tower on a flat Earth. See?
So how do you? What we're seeing here is the emotional distress being espoused by Chemo, because he cannot accept the fact that none of us accept that the Earth is flat. In fact, to our point of view, we've now falsified the proposition of the Earth being flat. It seems to only conform to curvature. Yet he cannot get this actual point in his mind now, and he has to revert back to his native script, which obviously is a knee-jerk emotional reaction. And Troll Reversal, that's a fair point, and I will watch that. Thank you.
Yes, like I said, what Ranty
you're back
did,
to presupposing flat, Chemo. I don't know if you noticed.
I'm only going with what Ranty and Conspiracy Cats did. We know we're on a flat plane. We modelled the flat plane, and we're trying to ask, why do we see this on a flat plane? Is there an explanation for this on a flat plane? And of course there is an explanation for this on a flat plane.
What is it?
And not only an explanation, we can replicate with an experiment our predicted cause to this observation on a flat plane.
What is your predicted cause, Chemo?
Lensing.
What kind of lensing?
How did you manipulate the atmospheric lensing then? Come on, we can get back to this again if you'd like. You can make yourself look stupid twice.
I posted the link for you.
You're not manipulating the atmosphere here.
Okay, that means that Moynock's experiment is valid then, yeah?
Well, that's him presupposing a globe. Does he have measurements for that globe?
You're presupposing flat. Do you have measurements for that flat?
We observe flat. We don't observe curvature like Moyak. What Moyak is showing, no one has ever seen water. Alright then, Moyak, put water on that object to replicate what we see in nature.
We're not testing gravity.
Aha!
Now, Chemo, your lens experiment water.
Put water on your object and let's see it go around the ball, around your curved surface.
Put air on it, make a lens.
Can you show me the water on this picture that is higher than the Blackpool Tower? Can you show me water that is affecting that observation?
What did you say, Moya? What was your response?
Shape, or form, apart from a little bit of refraction.
I'm quiet, Moya.
I'm sure it's in the middle of a sentence there, Chemo.
You're interrupting Moya. He was about to explain.
Well, Chemo, I said,
please
produce a lens in the atmosphere above your for your images, for your video.
Yeah, there's a lens in my video.
No. I want you to do it with air. You want me to stick water on my ball? I want you to do it with air. I want you to make a lens.
I didn't say air. I said a lens.
Well, show me the lens. Has an airplane ever crashed into it? What's it made of?
The lens is made of water.
Show me your
lenses can be made out of anything. Show me your
image. Show me your image with water vapor or.
I didn't say water vapor is the cause.
Just use a humidifier.
I didn't say water vapor is the cause.
Water. Okay,
I didn't
so
say
the air
water is the cause.
Here is just pure water, but that wouldn't.
I didn't say water is the cause.
Water doesn't magnify unless.
I didn't say water was the cause.
Water doesn't magnify unless it curves.
Fine, I didn't say water was the cause.
Not magnify.
It's not the cause. Water is not the cause.
What is?
Lensing.
What's causing the lensing?
The water.
There you go, buddy.
You lost the plot space.
Ladies and gentlemen, the best that Flat Earth has to offer.
I'm gonna test my predicted cause, which is not water.
That was less than a minute between I didn't say water is the cause and what's the cause? The water.
of the lensing.
Oh boy, you can't make this stuff up.
Water causes rainbows too, so what? We're not talking about water, we're talking about the lensing.
Oh, no, that's it. We all agree, Chemo. No more questions.
Water can cause red, blue, red and yellow and green. But we're not talking about the water. We're talking about the lensing. Exactly.
So you realize that you're boxed in and now you're playing
I could do this all day long. So let's get back to our predicted cause, which is the lensing. So when we manipulate the lensing, you get the same effect or a different effect, depending on what, how we manipulate the lensing, as it were. So if you can come up with another experiment to explain this on a flat Earth, we would like to see. We're waiting for the rebuttal.
See, that's assuming a flat Earth. The problem with that is perhaps I can come up with 1 million walnut experiments that show up things being cut off. Like I could cut the bottom of the mountain off physically. I could show the mountain going over a curve. There's lots of different things it could be. We're trying to prove what it is, and you haven't done it with that lens.
In Randy's picture here, Moyak, where show me where Foolish is posted, show me where the curvature is. Where's the curve?
Photos of that, but I don't know what purpose that's going to do for you.
No, in Randy's picture, show me the curve, like in your image. I can see the curve. I can see your finger is down below.
Do you want me to zoom in on it more and show you that the curve will go away?
Well, do whatever you like, but I'm asking in the image, where is the curve in Ranty's picture?
Curve on mine if I was zoomed in and had my camera real close.
Okay, so can you zoom out then on Ranty's picture and show the curve?
You show me the lens.
Sorry?
You show me the lens.
I did.
You showed me a lens.
Yeah.
I showed you a situation.
But no curvature.
Both of our models are flawed.
But no curve.
Both of our models are flawed, obviously, and therefore your test is insufficient for proving anything. It's good for a hypothesis to say that maybe lensing is causing it, but it doesn't prove that lensing is causing it.
Okay, so do you have curvature to show like your video?
You have atmosphere acting like a lens.
Yes. I've got the video, I've got the observation of the boat, and we're copying.
No, I want to see it acting on tops of mountains. I found that there's a lot of problems down at the surface.
Oh, and I'm always giving up. So who's next? Emerald's retired. Zan, you want to go again?
What you see the lens.
Oh, don't moan, Moya. Let's not moan.
Oh, you significantly demonstrated that you don't know science. You don't have answers. All you do is you know.
Is that you done then, Zan? Are you done? Okay. Zan, let's not socialize. Have you finished?
You can't manipulate your independent variable. You don't know how to manipulate your atmospheric lensing.
What does it mean?
You can't account for the drop of the mountain.
What does it mean?
Am I wrong?
What does it mean, Zan?
Yes. See? Yes. Yes.
Excellent. So Zan is done. Moyak is cooked. Emerald is fried to smithereens.
We've tied up a lot of the loose ends, Chemo. You really exposed yourself.
Oh,
today.
he's back. You want a bit more?
Oh no, I'm just I'm pointing out the fact that we've pretty neatly tied up a lot of these conclusions already.
So,
by the way,
do you have an explanation for this on a flat Earth, Emerald?
If you've got one, I'd like to hear it.
I'm asking you, do you have an experiment or explanation for those mountains sink on a flat Earth?
On a flat Earth?
Yeah.
I have no reason to think the Earth's flat in this case, so why would I spend my day coming up with alternate hypotheses?
Can you explain this observation on a flat Earth?
Well,
not in the way that makes sense.
We followed your method.
What does that? I don't know what that means. Does that mean yes or does that mean no?
It means I can come up with a bunch of ways which, similar to yours, don't make sense, but I'm not going to come up with one that does make sense.
What does that mean, though? Does that mean yes or does that mean no?
It means that if I spend enough time and come up with something wacky enough, I'm sure I could cobble together something that would convince
what
probably
does that mean? Does that
some
mean
people,
yes, or does that
maybe
mean
even
no?
you. It's not as simple as yes or no. I'm telling you under what conditions it's yes and under what conditions it's no. I know this is maybe more complex than you were wondering, but
I still don't know what that means. Does it mean
that's
yes, you could come up with an answer, or no, you couldn't?
I mean, it doesn't sound like you can come up with an answer.
You sound confused, Emerald. You okay?
I'm fine.
Okay, so could you explain this observation on the flat Earth?
Oh, sure. I could come up with all kinds of
Sure,
explanations.
I could. Does that mean yes or no?
I could come up with explanations that, just like yours, fall apart.
Does that mean yes or no?
I think that
means no. If you don't know whether mine means yes or no, maybe it's time for you to take a break, Chemo.
Well, that's what I'm trying to find out. Are you done? Are you quit?
Well, no, Chemo.
I never started. I was never in this to find a flat Earth explanation.
You never started.
That's what your job was. That's what your job was, to show how you manipulate your variables, to show how you come up with a proper experiment to explain this on the flat Earth. And what we've shown as quite evident over the past couple of hours is that you can't do that. Now you're asking me to do it for some reason.
No, I'm asking you to do it. I'm saying
that
if this is wrong, as you said over the couple of hours, could you come up with an explanation for this on a flat Earth?
I doubt it.
What does I doubt it mean? Does that mean yes or no?
It means
it's kind of similar to no.
I am uncertain as to whether or not I could.
Yeah, does that mean yes or does that mean no?
It doesn't mean either of those.
So what does it mean you don't know?
It means I haven't invested enough time in trying to come up with flat Earth explanations.
What does that mean? I don't know, yes or no.
So, Chemo.
Hold on, Emerald's answering. Can't you hear Emerald?
No.
I'm
actually shocked that you're not.
Look, you're talking over Emerald's answer. So, Emerald, does that mean yes, no, or I don't know?
No, Chemo.
It means I don't know.
Over your
it means you don't know. Okay, fine. Let's move on. You don't know. That's what I wanted to hear. Go ahead, Zan. He doesn't know.
Okay. So, how are you going to measure your atmospheric lensing? How are you going to manipulate that again? You're going to eliminate the atmosphere? What are you going to do that?
With gravity.
When are we going to get your experiment, Chemo? We want your experiment.
With gravity.
Oh, you're going to use gravity?
Sure, why not?
Okay, how are you going to use gravity to manipulate the atmospheric lensing, Chemo? That's an interesting experiment. Want to detail that a little bit better?
Telepathy.
Oh, telepathy. Telepathy. You have telepathy. Can you tell what I'm thinking right now?
No.
No? Why not?
I'm not telekinetic. I'm not telepathic.
You might want to practice that telepathy more.
I'm not I don't have telepathy. Telepathy.
Oh, how are you going to use telepathy in your experiment then?
What is telepathy?
Psychopathy.
Zan, what is
telepathetic?
Oh boy, what a day.
For flat Earth.
Or night.
Oh, what a day. So, as long as we're clear now then on how to conduct science and how to conduct measurements, Moyuk presented us with a survey. We'd have to survey the land and see how much drop or curvature there is. And with Ranty's picture, requires science. Science. We have to explain the observed phenomena in nature. Now, you guys have already said, Emerald has already said he doesn't know. He cannot think of a hypothesis to explain this on a flat Earth. And he's left it to the scientists like myself and others to explain it for him, which we've done kindly and gladly, with pleasure.
Okay, where's that experiment at, Chemo, then? The one that shows that...
If you've done this, you should have a real experiment, not this playing with lenses in your tabletop.
Does it agree with that hypothesis?
Facade. Well, if your hypothesis is that the atmosphere is doing the lensing, then no, you're absolutely not doing the right experiment.
Does it agree? Does the experiment do what happens in nature?
It actually does not agree because
we don't agree at all. Because
what's different effect? What's the different effect that you see?
Your tabletop experiment is magnifying glass lensing. Your proposed hypothesis is atmospheric lensing.
That's the cause, Emerald. Keep up. What effect is different in the experiment and in nature?
It changes the size. The angular size of it is incorrect. It changes perspective. Therefore, it is not what we see in the atmosphere.
Okay, what effect, Emerald? Effect, not measurement.
Whoever else was just talking just summed it up for you. Were you
in the
listening to them?
experiment and then the observation?
Yeah, whoever just spoke. Did you listen to what they said?
If you're
yeah, but they're over talking your response, Emerald.
Lenses prove the globe. That's how stupid your experiment is.
So we're looking at the effect, Emerald. In the experiment, is the effect the same or is it different?
Whoever just spoke earlier, which apparently you didn't.
Everyone is talking at the same time. It's hard to hear anyone. They're all. Don't worry about those animals. Yeah. Think about science.
So the answer then is the effect that is different is the angular sizes of objects. That lens plays around with perspective in a way that's not realistic.
Okay, so is the effect different, Emerald?
I just told you yes.
What's the different effect?
I just told you perspective changes.
What do we observe in nature?
We observe correct perspective.
But what was the observation with Ranty's picture?
Not lenses.
Yeah,
don't fall for his reversal into him doing the questioning. This is his experiment.
Right, Zan, hold on a second. You've got a hot mic there.
No, it's
Let me help you out a second.
Speaking with it.
No, you've got a hot mic, Zan. You over talk when I'm talking.
The simple difference between your experiment and reality is that when you use a magnifying glass, you're changing the angular size of objects. You're messing with perspective.
Okay, but the effect in nature is a lower mountain, yes?
With correct perspective.
But we don't observe what you're thinking about the measurements. We just see the mountain lower.
In nature, we observe perspective correctly.
No, but that's your version of correctly.
No, that's experimentally confirmed how perspective works.
Yeah, again, that's
how objects
your opinion.
Change in size as they get farther away, and your magnifying glass experiment violates that.
That's fine. That's your opinion. Your analysis on it. That's fine. But the observation is the mountain is lower. That's what we see.
The observation is that the mountain is lower and smaller than it really is. Your magnifying glass shows lower but the same size, so it doesn't match reality.
We're not talking about measurements, we're talking about the effect.
Yeah, I know. The effect is that the magnifying glass makes things look the wrong size.
So what is the effect?
Which is unrealistic.
What is the effect in nature? What do we see?
The effect in nature is that those mountains get lower. They don't get magnified.
They look lower on a flat Earth. Is that the effect?
No, and they look lower in reality.
But on a ball, is that normal, this effect?
The effect of the mountains appearing lower as they're farther away? Yes.
Is that normal, or is that like, oh my gosh, we need to find out what's going on here?
On a globe, it makes perfect sense.
It makes perfect sense, but on a flat Earth, this effect can't be explained, right?
Not by your experiment, no.
Or by anybody.
I don't know about not by anybody, because we haven't tried every single possible experiment.
What do you presume the cause is?
I already told you, I'm not in this business. This is your job.
Yeah, it's been done.
We've already covered how your experiment isn't that, so no, try again.
Well,
we need to see if it's something physical or something optical with the eye.
There you go. You're already... You've said only 10 words, and you've already gone farther than Chemo has in the last 3.5 hours.
Yeah, but I'm not about to use a religious thought and guess my way through it. Do you have a practical...
Oh, but you've already guessed. You said your guess was that it was atmospheric lensing. Don't pull that crap.
No, that was the experiment that told me that. I didn't know that, did I?
You supposed it, and then you did the experiment after. You know the hypothesis comes before the experiment, right?
Right, and that's my predicted cause. I didn't know that,
did I? You made a guess, your hypothesis, and then
now
you
tested we know the answer through experiments.
Right, how did you test the atmospheric lensing?
Who unmuted you? I'm kicking you out of the room. If you do that again, he's gone. I'll unmute him when I'm ready.
Yeah, Chemo, the people who are talking are bringing up a good point.
Yeah,
and you seem to be ignoring them. So I'll repeat the point, which is, how are you manipulating atmospheric lensing? You can play with your magnifying glass all you want. I don't care. You can burn ants on the sidewalk until the cows come home. And I don't live in a place with cows.
So is the lensing.
Hang on, we've got an American girl here. What did you say?
Howdy.
Well, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Oh, I'm having some fun. Giddy up. So, what did you mute, Zan? Spurs? What did you say to me?
Okay, so we're clear now that we're on a flat plane.
No, we're not clear on that. You haven't established that. Keep trying to slip that past here and just casually stating it as a fact that we know that, despite the fact that that's what the entire point of this discussion is.
That they are on a flat Earth, they modelled it, and asked for an explanation on a flat Earth.
Yep, and so far you haven't been able to provide one that's backed up by a
So what we've been able to do is give an experiment for the cause to this effect.
Yeah, and you're saying the cause is atmospheric lensing.
That causes lensing. There are different types of lensing. You understand that, right?
Well, yeah, which kind of lensing do you think it is?
It's just lensing in general.
Well, a lensing effect needs a lens. What's acting as the lens?
Well, it can be the water in the atmosphere.
Okay, so make an experiment for that.
With what?
You see, when you do science, you need to be specific. You don't just claim vague generalities and then do an arbitrary experiment to confirm that. You need to be specific in science, otherwise you're a bad scientist.
Well, water's not the cause.
So if you think it's water that's making the lensing effect, then you test that with water in the air.
Yeah,
if you think that it's some other element in the atmosphere making the atmosphere behave like a lens,
put a pencil in water and see the pencil get bigger, smaller,
great.
depending on the angle.
And then what that shows is that a body of water can behave like a lens. So the moment you show me a body of water in the atmosphere, then we're done. But you haven't done that yet.
What haven't I done?
Likewise, in your experiment, you show a magnifying glass producing a lensing effect. That's great. We now know that magnifying glasses produce that effect.
So
now, the moment you can show me a magnifying glass in the atmosphere, we're done. But you haven't.
Yeah, but it's not just water that causes lensing.
Okay, well then isolate what it is and come back once you've got it.
So as long as we know the cause, which is lensing, replicate what we see in nature.
You could replicate it with something different, and that just shows that two things are causing lensing. The atmosphere,
what
maybe.
Can you show? What's different? You don't
I already told you earlier the angular sizes are wrong when you use a magnifying glass.
Measurements
Did you
are not
miss
science.
that the last? I'm talking about the effect.
Yeah.
How big something looks is an effect. Yeah, how big something looks is an effect. If something looks big, that's an effect.
Man-made
oh, I'm not measuring anything. You're missing the point here, Kimo.
Any angles that you're talking about are man-made constructs.
I'm not talking about angles. I'm talking about it looks big versus it looks small.
Yeah, big is describing the size of something. Again, that is made up.
Okay. Well, you're not applying this consistently because you're saying that because the mountain appears low, that's an effect. Low is a position, and that's also an angle.
You're saying, to me, this looks normal. You're saying this looks strange. It looks smaller, lower. How is this happening on a flat Earth? On a board, this would look normal to you. On a board, it would look strange to me. So I would say, where's the curvature? Show me the measurement of curvature. It doesn't require science, it requires a measurement.
Sure.
So, where's your measurement?
The fact that you've got this sort of arbitrary line where you'll say that high versus low is an effect, but big versus small is a measurement, is to gatekeep the fact that you know your experiment doesn't match reality.
No, you're saying that this is lower than it should be on a flat Earth. Explain this. So again,
well, no, you've admitted so far that you're trying to reproduce the mountain being lower with your experiment.
So what's the problem then? What would you like to explain?
Oh, there's no problem with the thing being lower being an effect, as long as you also recognize that things being the wrong size is also an effect. Because we can see whether something's big or small.
What should it be?
It shouldn't be bigger.
What should it be?
In your lens it should be the correct size according to perspective.
What is the correct size?
As it gets farther, it should... the correct size is as it gets farther, it should get smaller. In your magnifying glass, as that ship gets farther, it's getting the same size.
You have the number.
That's wrong.
If you go with numbers, what are the numbers?
Why would I give you numbers? That'd be a measurement.
You're talking about this size, that size. So what should it be? What size should it be?
Smaller.
It should be smaller. How much smaller?
Yep. any amount smaller. Just the effect. The effect is that it should be smaller, but it
So
isn't.
you need to
The
give the
magnifying
original
glass is wrong
size.
compared to reality.
Oh, let's bring Zant back now. Oh, somebody, right. That's it. He's out of here. I told you not to unmute him. I was just about to unmute him.
I did you a favour, Spurs. I preempted your...
No, there's no need, Waz. I don't need your assistance.
I was just helping you, mate.
No, it's okay.
It's all right. We're here to help, mate.
So yeah,
Okay,
your
so as we
experiment
proceed-
your
Don't be so
experiment is a
precious.
fun. Your experiment is a fun experiment to play around with magnifying glasses. You
Mhm.
haven't shown a magnifying glass in the atmosphere, so come up with something better. Find
Well-
something in the atmosphere that you can manipulate, and find something that you can isolate. Like you brought up water. Good idea. Put water in the air in the lab and see if you can make it behave in the same way as we see on the horizon. But
That's your
isolate
cause.
something
So the-
in.
Is that your cause?
That's what you proposed. You said it could be the water that's making the lensing
That's
happen.
not my
I'm
cause,
saying
no.
if
that's your cause, you can test the water.
well, if the thing you're manipulating in your experiment is a magnifying glass, then your proposed cause is a magnifying glass. Are you saying that the atmosphere is a magnifying glass?
No, I'm saying the lensing
Oh,
causes
well, then
this
then your
effect.
experiment doesn't match your hypothesis, and you should try again.
Well, what's your predicted cause?
I don't have one. I'm just pointing out that your experiment doesn't match your
You
hypothesis,
want to know my
and that you should
predicted
try again.
cause?
Yeah, your predictive cause should be the thing you're manipulating in your experiment. If you're manipulating a magnifying glass, you are telling me by doing that that your actual predicted cause is a magnifying glass.
What is my predicted cause?
Based on your experiment, a magnifying glass. But you've said that that's not what it is. You see the mismatch
is my
between your
predicted
experiment
cause?
and your hypothesis?
What
Your
is my
experiment
predicted cause?
does not match your hypothesis. So your experiment's wrong.
Do you know what my predicted cause is?
Is it a magnifying glass?
So you don't know, you're guessing.
I'm asking you.
I know, that's what I said. You're guessing, so you don't know my predicted cause.
I'm not guessing, I'm asking you so I can clarify.
Well, that's what I'm saying to you. You're guessing, yes?
Answer the question.
I've just asked you a question. What is my predicted cause?
Yeah, and I've told you I don't know.
Excellent.
Is it a magnifying glass?
So you don't know. So my predicted cause is lensing effect.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't match your experiment, which is using a magnifying glass. So
No,
your
I'm
experiment
going to
does
use
not
a
support your
lens
hypothesis.
to try and manipulate the effect.
Yeah, you're not manipulating lensing. You're manipulating a magnifying glass.
What is a magnifying
which then,
glass?
A magnifying glass is one type of lens.
Ah,
It is
so
not
it's a
representative
lens,
of all
yes?
the kinds of lensing.
What is a magnifying glass?
A magnifying glass is a type of lens.
Is a type
if
of
you're
lens.
Gonna use,
And
if you're
I
going to
should
use a
use
magnifying,
what should I use?
If you're going to, what's that?
What's my predicted cause?
You should use the kind of lens that you think is causing the atmospheric lensing.
What's my predicted cause
If you
again?
want to use a magnifying glass, then you're basically saying you think that the atmosphere is behaving like a magnifying glass.
What's my predicted
And
cause?
I asked you,
Emerald?
and I even asked you, do you think that the atmosphere behaves like a magnifying glass? And you said no. You're contradicting yourself here.
What is a magnifying glass?
I already answered that. Did you
What is
forget?
my predicted cause?
You already answered that. Are you forgetting things?
So, my cause is a lens, and you said a magnifying glass is a lens. What's the problem?
You said your cause was lensing, not a lens.
Yeah.
Try again.
So I use a lens. What is lensing, Emerald?
Lensing is just an effect. It's not a cause.
From what?
What's that?
From what? Effect from what?
From some kind of lens. and the kind of lens you use is your predicted cause. If your predicted cause is that it's a magnifying glass, then you use a magnifying glass in your experiment. If your predictive cause is that water is causing the lensing, then your experiment should manipulate water. If your predictive cause is that the atmosphere is causing lensing, you should manipulate the atmosphere in your experiment. You see how you're trying to say that an effect, lensing, is actually the cause. You're calling an effect the cause, and that's incorrect. So I'm telling you over and over, try again.
Now.
Because your experiment doesn't match your hypothesis.
Oh, right. Get out of here. I don't know why you're doing that. Okay, you're messing with my moderation. We're going to sort it out. Okay, and you took it too far. So now he's gone.
Well, that's on you, Spurs. That's on you.
Okay. So now what? You do?
So he was being quiet. He was being quiet. He wasn't interrupting after you muted him the first time. I muted him once. You remuted him. I unmuted him a second time. Then you kicked him. That's on you.
Yeah, that's on me.
That's on you.
I told you not to mute him.
He hasn't. He hasn't interrupted since you muted him the first time.
So we've got our predicted cause. Emerald said it's a lens. Using a lens. I don't know what more to say.
The more to
You're not
say
doing
is
yourself
that
any favors, though.
You're using the wrong kind of lens.
Using the wrong kind of lens. Did he say?
Yeah, unless you're wanting to tell me that you think the atmosphere is a magnifying glass, then your magnifying glass experiment is pointless.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to take a break now. Anyway, we've successfully got you to say.
Okay.
It's a lens.
See you later. Bye.
We've got. That doesn't mean I'm going. I'm doing my little thing like curved. I'm going for my coffee. And then a little
okay, shall I get your bingo bango? What's the boing? What was the word?
You got your
Ding,
happy sound.
Boing,
you got your happy sound
like
bite because you conflated the effect with the cause. You think that the effect of lensing is actually the cause of something, rather than forgetting the fact that you actually need.
Do you need some help, Spurs? Do you need some help?
No, I don't need help.
You said you were going. Do you need some help?
Unless Curve needs help in future.
No, I'm asking you here and now.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing about the future. Nothing about the past.
So
just
go
here
back
and now.
And either find a way to manipulate this atmosphere that you think is causing the lensing, which is the cause, because effects aren't causes, and lensing is an effect, or admit that you've been talking about an experiment that doesn't make sense for the last 3.5 hours. Either one of those is fine, and you can do that while you're drinking your coffee.
To clear things up, I asked you, what is a magnifying glass? You said a lens.
I said a specific type of lens. Yeah,
it's not
indicative of all lenses.
So we've been able to manipulate our cause with a lens.
Correct.
To me, that's job done. If you have an experiment to rebuttal, I'm interested, I'm listening, but you're all over the place now, Emerald.
Because for the last several hours, rebuttals have been offered for your experiment, and you seem to either be whistling past them or ignoring the criticisms entirely.
That a magnifying glass is a lens.
Yep. So, you think a magnifying glass is